Don't adjust your YouTube video playback device. You've not been punked. Ashton Kutcher is nowhere around here, thank Christ. That is correct. New Faceless song, The Spiraling Void. New album potentially coming out entitled, I believe, In Becoming a Ghost or something of that variety. Surprise! It's almost as though this came out of nowhere like an RKO, but this is a track that debuted last night, and we have to talk about it considering 2012's excellent Autotheism was one of the best regarded albums of the year, nearly one album of the year on this channel. But we need to speak about this more so considering the fact that this is a band that really did catch everybody off guard. We weren't too sure whether or not this band had a full lineup of membership, which they do. They have a new song, they have a new record, so now The Spiraling Void has the mammoth task, the truly large task in attempting to be the John the Baptist to this album and really showcase what it has to offer. Tech.THE isn't exactly what it was from 3 years ago. It is definitely a subgenre of metal that has evolved. It has morphed. There is a lot more members to its membership. So now some of the old tricks of the trade may not hit as hard. So let's talk about the track in just a moment. Mainly because I have to mention that in Autotheism, specifically the third part of the Autotheist movement, the Sexy Saxman was on there. Totally forgot to mention that in 2012. So 3 years later, you're welcome. Let's get that out of our minds. Da 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 da. You're not going to hear that here. Now, Spiraling Void is actually, it's kind of funny that that callback really happens, considering it does bear a bit of a striking resemblance in some ways to the second part of the Autotheist movement. And really, whenever you think about that three-part cycle, it was one that was very much measure, countermeasure, measure, build to the measure, countermeasure, and then build on the countermeasure to the stunning measure finale. If you don't know what that means, it basically means that it alters itself from one side to the other, almost as though it is a sort of debate. It's one that definitely has that feel to it. And the Spiraling Void, in a way, does have that sensation to it, just because the Faceless is really able to separates their calmer side and their technical and brutal side very nicely on this disc. In fact, they do it with a very strange section near the midway point. It's one where they're able to build very nicely to this midway point, this almost rest portion, or countermeasure as I would call it, in a way that almost would resemble a bit of a Spanish little transition. It has a nice little drop to it, and it's just kind of an interesting way in which to really separate this first period of chaos to the period that will take you to the finale of this song. And trust me, it's one that's well worth it. If this sounds a little bit out of place or out of character, it's actually more just of a strange nuance than anything else. It's something that should be respected as opposed to insulted upon. It's more of a joke sound than anything else, and I really kind of dig it, considering it's a great way to separate two major portions of this song and give it its own little salsa, its own little flavor. Whenever you are leading up to this portion, you almost have an expectation, considering the background that you hear, which is very resemblant, once again, to the second movement of the Autotheist trilogy of songs off of the previous album. So at face value, at some point you start to think to yourself, wow, did they really exit the mindset from Autotheism, or is this almost something that feels very much as a continuation of that effort? Well, the minute that this little drop, this little period ceases, you start to recognize that no, this is instead a spiraling void that certainly feels very real. It's one that has its own unique texture to it, unique feel to it, considering the way in which we descend once again into the unbridled chaos, the technical virtuosity, and then move unfettered, by the way, into a guitar solo that is one that would certainly amp up Autotheism probably to the top. This is a wonderful solo, and it's one that certainly may not seem all of that atypical coming from a band such as the Faceless, coming from this membership that we've, well, the one man that we know at least, but at the same time still resonates and adds a nice piece of punctuation to the end of this song, even with it not being over yet. There's still a minute left by the time this solo starts to really wind down, and then we hear a clean voice that descends into vocoder territory. That's something that really comes out of left field, something that really seems to spark the imagination a little bit, because this almost gives it the semblance of potentially a bit of a sci-fi, a bit of a, out there feel to it. It's one that definitely is, once again, similar to that midway portion of this song. Seems a little bit uncharacteristic. It seems a bit strange, new. It's a bold step, a bold leap, and one that fits quite nicely. It brings the song to a very haunting end, and one that actually will leave numerous fans of this band very, very satisfied. So let's say you're a brand new person to the Faceless fold. This is the first song of theirs that you ever listened to, or listened to, whether it be present tense or past tense. This is definitely one that showcases exactly what this band has to offer. It's one that really showcases their potential as well, and even though they have this sort of revolving door of membership that has really occurred ever since their debut, it always seems like the musical directions always feels very, very solid. The feet are on the ground, the foundation has been laid, and it's not one that sounds all of that different. The different players in this fold don't necessarily cause a landmark change in sound, which actually is a good thing, considering the Faceless' sound is very solid. It's one that works very well for them. Now, for those who are seasoned vets of the Faceless front, this is still going to be a song that's going to leave you thirsting for more from this album and hoping to have it come out sooner rather than later. It's a strong song, and it's actually something that a lot of groups that we've perhaps talked about singles this year could really kind of look at this as a bit of an example. You really want to lead with your best foot forward, and that's actually the scary part, is what if this ends up being the weakest track on this album? If that's the case, then damn, we're in for a treat. I have a link in the description box for any of you guys who haven't checked this song out yet. I want you to check that out right now and let me know your thoughts, your feelings, how you are, how it's hit you ever since this song has dropped. Let me know in the comments below. I'm coverkillernation, and I'm stoked for this album, but I selfishly hope it comes out in 2016, because 2015 is already fucking stacked ridiculously. Like, holy shit, this would make my life really fucking hard. But if it happens, it'll be good for music, so check it out.